Matthew, in the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week. Mark, and very early in the morning, the first day of the week. Luke, now upon the first day of the week, very early in the morning. And John, the first day of the week. I think I'm going to start with Matthew, in the end of the Sabbath. That's the only mention about the Sabbath being ended. In the end of the Sabbath. As it began to dawn toward the first day of the week. Very early in the morning. Should I say, as it began to dawn, or very early in the morning? At the rising of the sun. Okay, I think I'm going to go with Mark, because it has the morning, but then also at the rising of the sun later. 2 mentions, whereas Matthew only has 1 mention of the timing, as it began to dawn. And beginning to dawn is more close to the rising of the sun than morning. Although I could say, as it began to dawn, very early in the morning. Very early in the morning is in Mark, word for word. And John again, the first day of the week. So I'll just combine that whenever I mention the first day of the week. You know, I think because the Sabbath is a day, I should mention that now it's the first day of the week. It's the other day. Very early in the morning. Toward the dawn. At the rising of the sun. So now I have very early in the morning. Mark and Luke. Very early in the morning. Oh wait, no, first day of the week. That's what I was going to do. Oh no, it would work this way. Early in the morning, as it began to dawn the first day of the week, because that would fit with Mark. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Instead of just the first day of the week, as it began to dawn the first day of the week. As it began to dawn toward the first day of the week. Instead of now upon the first day of the week. I think toward is better. The first day of the week is all 4. Now, Mark has 1 more mention. At the rising of the sun. And John also has early, when it was yet dark. I think it'd make more sense if I had at the rising of the sun first, when it was yet dark. Early is in John as well. So, Mark, Luke, John. Early. In the end of the Sabbath, very early in the morning, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week. Oh, you know what? I think I'm going to have when it was yet dark after morning. Very early in the morning when it was yet dark. I don't want this to be too repetitive, and I think it would be if I had it at the end. In the end of the Sabbath, very early in the morning when it was yet dark, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, at the rising of the sun. That would be from Mark. I did change the beginning from in the end of the Sabbath to now upon the end of the Sabbath. Now upon from Luke. Came Mary Magdalene. Mark. They came to the sepulchre, but I'm going to have all of them named. Luke. It was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, and Mary, the mother of James, and other women, so that would have to include Salome. It'll be mostly the explanation of these women from Luke. They came. So I'm skipping they from Mark and Luke. And just going with came from Matthew, Mark, and from Luke. John. Comes Mary Magdalene. Came Matthew, Mark, Luke, not John. Mary Magdalene from Luke, John, and Matthew, not Mark. So that's it with John. Luke has and Joanna and Mary and the other Mary. I think that is Mary, the mother of James. Because Mark has Mary, the mother of James, and Salome in this group, which is the same group as mentioned in Matthew. So instead of just saying the other Mary, I'm going to use Luke. Mary, the mother of James. So I'm going to leave off the other. Joanna and Mary, the mother of James. And Mary, Matthew, and Luke. So I could use the word the from the other Mary, because the mother in Luke is in italics. So I could just use mother in italics. Of James. And other women that were with them. Luke continues, which told these things to the apostles, but that's because the naming of who these women are comes later after these events in Luke. Back to where the event is, to the sepulchre. That's what would have to come next. John, to the sepulchre. Mark, early in the morning. They came to the sepulchre. Matthew, to see the sepulchre. They're not just going to look, right? Okay, Luke is clear. Came to the sepulchre, bringing the spices which they had prepared, and certain others with them. Okay, these certain others with them are, as mentioned, the other women. So I'm going to be repeating a few of these words, at least in the addresses, because I'm not going to have the women named twice. But I will have certain other women. That's what it has here in Luke 24:1. Bringing the spices which they had prepared. So I'm not going to say to see the sepulchre. Well, actually, I guess I could. Yeah, I guess I could do that. Only Matthew, see to the sepulchre is all four. John ends, and sees the stone taken away from the sepulchre. Luke, and they found the stone rolled away from the sepulchre. Okay, but before that, I have to have the fact that they're questioning how it's going to be moved at all. And they said among themselves, who shall roll away the stone from the door of the sepulchre? So I think I could stop there and then add the verse from Mark. Matthew, to see the sepulchre. And the angel answered and said to the women. Okay, so only Mark has the fact that the women are wondering. Bringing the spices which they had prepared. Just Mark now. And they said among themselves, who shall roll away the stone from the door of the sepulchre? Oh, also I moved came to see the sepulchre instead of saying at the rising of the sun came all these women to the sepulchre. Because it's such a long list of women, I thought it would be easier to say these women came to the sepulchre.